Welcome, everybody. So glad can you not hear me? Not on. I'm not on. It would help if I turned it all the way on. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to this meeting of the La Haute Audubon Society. My name is Susie Reynolds, and I'm the current president. And I'm so happy to see everyone here and everyone online. First of all, I want to thank our hospitality committee, and that is Marissa Ernst, Kathy Schmidt, Phyllis Henderson, Robin Griffin, and Tina Nappy. And say thank you for all of the activities you've got today. Well, something exciting is going on. We're hearing lots of sirens. All right, I have a few announcements. This Sunday, check out the Riverside Farmers Market at Idlewild Park because LAS will have a booth to sell books that have been donated to our organization and to share our love and knowledge of birds. Stop by and say hi. The market is open from 8 to 1. And then also, if you'd like to volunteer, Patty would love to meet you and love to have some volunteers. All right, so to get in the mood for Halloween, you can do this by attending Alan Gubonic's lecture about owls of Northern Nevada. Alan will be speaking at Galena Creek Visitor Center on October 19th at 10 a.m. That is also the weekend of our 60 for 60 event celebrating the 60-year anniversary of the La Haute Audubon Society. The event is a 2-day event, starts on October 19th, ends on the 20th. They're offering lots of different field trips. I thought that I think there's 4 that are posted right now were it, but apparently they're going to have multiple field trips in the same time slots. So I asked Lauren, who could not be here tonight, how the sign up was going to go. So it'll be like we're signing up for regular field trips. There will be limits on how many people, but there should be so many field trips offered that you should be able to not have any trouble signing up for the field trip. And so the goal of this event is to see 60 different species of birds over this 2-day period. So that's what we're encouraging you to do. Then on the evening of the 20th, we're all going to go to the River School Farm. That's Tom Stilley's and Iris Stilley's place, and celebrate and share which birds that we found. And for every bird you found of different species, you get a ticket and there'll be a drawing for a t-shirt. So come help us celebrate our 60th anniversary. Also, Lauren, since she couldn't be here, has given me some information to share. And these are in Lauren's words. Join us on a once-in-a-lifetime birding expedition to Panama this next May of 2025. Lauren Whitenack, our field trip chair, will be the LAS liaison for the trip and will be partnering with our wonderful guide and naturalist, Mario Cordova. From the first night in Panama City, we will head to the beautiful Soberania National Park and spend 3 nights in the famous Canopy Tower. We will venture out on daily expeditions to local birding hotspots to find incredible species such as the lance-tailed manakin, the great jacamar, the slaty-backed forest falcon, and crimson-crested woodpecker. Okay. Next, we will head to Canopy Camp Darien, where we will go on a harpy eagle quest. The harpy eagle is among the largest eagles in the world and is the largest bird in Central America, weighing up to 20 pounds with a wingspan of over 7 feet. These birds are in sharp decline across their neotropical range, and seeing one in the wild is an incredible, rare, and life-changing experience. Other highlights from the Darien area will include crested and solitary eagles, cocoy herons, and golden-collared manakins. The tropics in Panama in particular are incredibly biodiverse, with Panama itself hosting over 1,000 bird species year-round. We will have the opportunity to see hundreds of these species. Please contact Lauren for more information about the trip. All right. Lauren couldn't be here tonight because she is a graduate student, and the sponsor of her grant was having a dinner that she had to attend. So we want her to continue to get that grant, so we're happy to talk with her. All right, our next program meeting will be on October 22nd, and for this meeting, we will expand our love of nature to include Bengal tigers. Steve Gessler will share a movie of his visit to India and his quest to see a Bengal tiger and some birds. All right, tonight's speaker, however, is Jessica Brooks, a wildlife specialist from the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and she will be telling us about the Nevada Breeding Bird Survey.
Yes.
Jessica.
Thanks.
Passing the torch.
Passing the torch. Okay, hello, everybody. Hello. Give me just a moment to figure out the fancy microphone. And that will work. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Yes, from the back too. Perfect. All right, so I was told that there are people watching hello online, and I have to stand right here so that you can see my face. And I love to do some public speaking for lots of different groups, but I have a tendency to wander. So if I start to wander, I will try and catch myself to come back and stand right here. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Jess Brooks. I work for the Nevada Department of Wildlife, or NDOW. I'll be referring to that as NDOW off and on throughout the presentation. I am one of the 2 wildlife staff specialists that work in the biodiversity division. The biodiversity division focuses on the terrestrial non-game species, which is where I love to be. Birds are my specialty. It's what I went to school for. It's what I specialized in for many years. And then when I moved to Nevada, I sort of fell into this very special, very specific role, and I absolutely love it. I've been with NDOW for 9 years next month, and I've been in this current role for 2 years this month, so getting there. Okay, so tonight we'll be talking about the breeding bird surveys. Who has participated in breeding bird surveys before? Shorebird surveys count, but not for breeding bird surveys, but I do coordinate those as well. And they are very fun.
Yes.
So I saw 3 hands go up. I too have a route out of Mill City that we'll kind of talk about a little bit later. So, oh gosh, let me make sure it's advancing. Okay. So tonight we'll talk about a program overview. We'll give a very short 2024 update. The data has been released in raw form, but they have not been analyzed yet. We'll talk about program importance. I'm sure you all know how important it is, but we'll talk about some specifics, how you can get involved, and then we'll talk about the State of the Birds report. And I brought 2 copies of 2 different reports that I will be leaving with you. They're available online as well, but I wanted to have them available for you to flip through. Some people like to have the paper in their hands, so I brought 2 copies of that. So a very brief overview of the breeding bird survey. The breeding bird survey is a rigorous bird population count. You are literally counting individuals at designated sites throughout the entire state of Nevada. The first breeding bird survey was conducted in 1968. And since then it has grown across the United States, but we also have sites throughout Canada and Mexico now, which is super cool. There are over 4,500 routes throughout North America. Each route consists of 50 roadside stops, and they're approximately half a mile apart. At each stop, all birds are counted, whether you hear them or see them. I typically have my partner with me. He times me, he sets a timer for 3 minutes, and I just call out the birds that I see and hear, and he vigorously writes them down. It's pretty fun. We do it every year. This is an example on the screen, and I can also point it out right here, of the loggerhead shrike trend map from 1966, before the official breeding bird survey got started, all the way to 2015. And the loggerhead shrike, I believe, is in the current state of the birds report, which is what I brought. But this is a general idea of the trend survey that we get from doing these breeding bird surveys, and they are population trend maps. And you basically can see populations grow and shrink over time, and it's based on habitat. You can also have an unlucky day, which I had this last year. But the breeding bird survey data is used in so many different ways, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. The 2024 update, 29 of the 33 routes were surveyed, which is 80%, that's our goal. This is my second year coordinating the breeding bird survey routes. It was very fun. I work with people from all over the state, volunteers like you. It's so fun. In 2020, due to COVID, we don't have any data, which is the first year since 1968 that we have no data. And you can see that on some of the graphs that there's just a big gap. But in 2021, there were around 6,600 individuals spotted. And just in 2022, which is what the State of the Birds report is coming from, we had just under 4,000 individuals counted. So bird populations are shrinking, but some individuals are growing, and I'll show you that in just a second too. So on the screen, in Nevada, in the United States in 2022, these are the top species that were counted. I just wanted to point that out. They are the house sparrow, western meadowlark, yellow-headed blackbird, common raven, of course, horned lark, of course, sagebrush sparrow, sage thrasher, brewer sparrow, European starling, and the cliff swallow. And then just below that, the 11th is Canada goose. Didn't quite make the top 10. So the importance of the survey, I kind of alluded to it just a little bit. But it is joint coordination between all of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The breeding bird survey data is the primary source for critical quantitative data to evaluate all of the status of this species throughout the continental area. So even the islands are doing this, even Hawaii. This helps fund a 75 billion wildlife watching industry based in community science. We don't count hours for this, even though we should. The hours get counted through the pustulant community, which is way on the other side of the country. We can better understand bird population changes for a more profound and reliable source, because the people that are doing these surveys do them every single year. And if you are interested in adopting a vacant route, I have my list. And you're more than welcome to sign up. The training is available. You go at your own pace. But the trend analysis on more than 500 bird species throughout North America is huge. And it helps NDOW and people like me, smack my microphone, I'm sorry, make decisions for conservation, actions on the ground. We're just starting a brand new Mason Valley. It's in its very early stages. We haven't put shovels in the dirt yet, but we will very soon. We're going to start rehabilitating a shorebird area at Mason Valley. So, and that's about a 2-year project, and we're just starting that project, and we're making decisions like that based on survey data from this survey. So we depend on our volunteers hugely. I have one survey route, but there are 33. I only have one. There are 32 other routes that we need volunteers for. It's a hands-off survey, and you're counting birds based on sight and based on sound. Surveys are done at your own pace whenever you want to go. You'll receive all the information and materials you need from USGS, except your vehicle and gas. You have to provide that. Your data is absolute, so whatever you record, that is what's used. There's never any questioning. The monitoring is used as modeling for conservation efforts and decision-making. If you're interested in participating, I'm going to talk to you about what a route might look like. You'll get maps that look very similar to what's on the screen. And if you have your phone and you want to scan that QR code, we're going to go through the map together. You can zoom in and zoom out. And I'm pretty good on a phone, so I can help you like go through some of those routes. But you can visit this map anytime you want. You can Google it, breeding bird survey map, and it'll come up. All of the unclaimed routes are in red. I have several unclaimed routes as of right now. You can even just email me and let me know that you're interested. I see some people pulling up their phones, so I'll give you a second. After you're assigned a route, you go through the training. It takes about 2 hours, and it's more or less just a quiz. It quizzes you on your bird identification skills. It shows you step by step how to record your data, what times you have to be at your route, things like that. After that, you'll get a packet. I'm going to step off screen for a second because I wanted to show it to you. You'll get this in the mail from USGS, and this is your packet for your route. In it are your data sheets, and they'll be blank. Mine aren't, because I did my survey this year. And then you'll get more blank. If you want, you can take a look at this. I'll have it up front after the presentation's over. You'll have big blank survey data sheets that you can just tally all of the species that you see. And you'll also get, let me flip to it, maps of your survey route with descriptions for each stop. And you'll get several maps, by the way. You'll also get this beautiful big orange paper that you can tape into your car. I've never had to use it, but you'll get it. It says caution, frequent stops, bird count in progress. So if someone wants to give you a hard time, you can give them a hard time back, but I don't recommend that. And then after you conduct your survey, you mail everything back in and you're done. You only have to do it once, anytime throughout the month of June. Did everyone have a chance to scan this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what happens when you adopt a route? I have notes on here because there are very specific steps. This is basic. So you'll get your packet. As I said, you'll go through it. There are notes in there from your previous year. Anytime during the month of June, like I said, you can conduct your count. I do recommend going and doing like a pre-run. I do a pre-run every year just to make sure the roads are okay. You'll arrive to your starting point 30 minutes before the sunrise. So we go camping. And 30 minutes before we start our survey. You'll drive to each designated stopping point and record every single bird you hear and see for 3 minutes. So the data sheets, I'm typically out there with my clipboard and a pencil. I don't like pen. And my husband is timing me and I'm shouting out the species. And I'm marking them down, but he is also marking them down. And then you get in the car, you drive a half a mile and you get out and you do it again 50 times. It takes around 4.5 hours. You're done around lunchtime. Go get lunch and you go home. It's very fun. It's pretty simple. There was one event that happened, not this year, but the year before, that my survey lasted around 6 hours. It was just a little bit rainy that day, but we saw some incredible species. It was very cool. And then you mail your packet back to the national office. What they do with it is pretty unique. They take all that data, they plug it into their Puxtulant system, and it goes through, or it starts to go through, analyzing data from previous years, all combined since 1968 for every route. So depending on what you see, that data could influence what happens in the next few years. Unfortunately, you can't change your route. It's very specific. Your stops have to be, the same every single year. But they are pretty fun. So one last chance to scan what that map will look like. I have what the map looks like here, but I have the list coming up on the next slide. And the example route that I have on screen here is one of them. So when you arrive, on your data sheet, you'll mark down what time you start. So I know the text is a little small, but basically all of the red on the map are vacant routes. And if you're willing to travel, some of those routes are absolutely beautiful. And if you wanted to double up, for example, the Heiko route and Caliini route near Caliini are both open. The route surveyor that we had last year wasn't able to do it, which is too bad, but that's okay. We have Cortez open, Walker Canyon, which is beautiful. I've done that route before. Mizpah is open, Major's Place just opened up, and that people were fighting over that last year. Nixon and Rancho Grande just opened as well. I'm just curious for the people that are in the room with me, how interested would you be in adopting any of these routes? I hear some chatter. We see some head nods. Okay. If you have any, if you have any questions about what it takes to do the route, I'm happy to talk to you about it. If you have any questions, to shout at me right now. Totally fine. Yeah.
I see you have Walker Canyon, but I can't, is that the Walker River?
Walker Canyon's up on your right.
That's a different, that's not the Walker River.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Can you, there it is.
Oh, I
Here.
see where 15
It's
is.
way,
Okay.
it's way over here.
Okay,
It's up by Eureka.
okay.
Ely, sorry.
Ely.
Ely, it's by Ely.
Are any of these routes on private land?
None of them are on private land.
That would be 50.
You know what, I take it back, there's one stop on my route that runs alongside private land, but I don't go on private land at all.
Do your survey from the road.
Yeah, so my husband and I and our two dogs, we go camping the night before. We get up 30 minutes before we have to start the survey. We record our time and then we start. And we spend 3 minutes at the very first stop, record all the birds that we hear and see on our data sheets, get in the car, drive half a mile, stop the car, turn off the engine, because you have to, right, to hear the birds. Get out and then do the exact same thing. We do that 50 times. We bring snacks and coffee, lots of coffee. I will say that number 9 on the list, which is Nixon, is beautiful and it's fairly close. It's right below Reno. Yeah, and it's open. I also recommend doing this with a group. So if you want to go with a partner or a group of 3, highly recommended. 1 person can time, 2 people can data record, and 1 person can shout out what birds they see and hear. You can even have 2 people shouting out what species you see and hear, have 1 person do data recording. It's very flexible. You can do whatever feels right with you. You can bring your whole family. You can have a bunch of people in the car with you. It's completely up to you. You are required to get out of the car though. You can't do it from your driver's seat.
And it's not till next June.
It's not till next June. We just did it. It's every single June. So if you wanted to do 1 survey on June 1st, you can do another survey on June 30th. You can do as many as you like. Different ones. Yes.
And you have to decide now.
You don't have to decide now.
Oh.
I'm recruiting,
Okay.
yeah, that's a great
That's
question.
fine.
I'm recruiting now because recruitment can prove difficult sometimes,
Okay.
especially for the ones in the center of the state.
Okay,
Um,
so these red marks might change by June on availability, or these are people who have signed up for next June?
the current red routes are currently vacant. So they may change, but I wanted to open it up to the Haunted Audubon Society first
Okay.
before opening it up to everybody else. I haven't sent any emails out to anyone. Yes.
Yeah.
On average, how long do people stay with the route? Said 5 years, 10 years, 20?
Usually they stay at least 5 years. It's required that if you adopt a route that you're with that route for at least 2 years. And then you can continue or you can drop, up to you. I've had my route, this upcoming June will be my 3rd year.
They won't throw you in jail.
No, they don't throw you in jail. And as long as it's the same group of people, the lead surveyor can change. So for example, I have a few biologists in the southern region. So I'm a statewide biologist. I usually work behind the computer. Super fun. But I have a ton of biologists in the southern region that switch off the lead surveyor every year, but it's the same group of people. So if you wanted to do that, that's fine too. And it's a whole family. It's 3 biologists and they bring their significant others and their kids and they make a thing of it.
I've done these before, and it seems like, well, first of all, if you go as a group, doesn't that change the statistics on really? Because if there's just one person, that's a lot more than 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, I'm sure it would change the statistics just a little bit, but depending on how good of a birder you are, you might not miss any birds. So
Well, you never.
I would like to think that I would get all of them, but you're right. Yeah, you never get all the birds. That's why I take,
Talking half a mile around, right, that's your radius.
well,
Just a quarter.
your radius is whatever you see in here at each stop.
It's changed them since the 90s because it was within half a mile. You couldn't. And I hit California concourse.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes. Yeah, oh, yeah, I apologize, I misunderstood the question, but yes, at each stop, it's anything you can see and hear within half a mile radius of where you're standing. Okay, yes,
Which would cover the next.
it would, and that's the
Yeah.
point, yeah. So let's say this is stop number 17, and I'm standing outside my car and it's freezing outside, which happens in June sometimes. Any bird I see and hear from here to a half mile around will be captured on my data sheet. I get in the car, I go to my stop 18, and if I see and hear a bird at that stop within half a mile radius, it's being captured along the entire route. I think I explained that correctly.
But that could result in double counting. Right?
It could, but part of the training is to be able to recognize not double counting their birds. I have a lot of larks, horned larks on my route, of course. And they're so cute, but I will typically see like a little bunch kind of follow me around because they're curious. And I have to be able to recognize, oh, I've already counted those 7 birds. Same with ravens. I have a couple ravens that follow me around on my route. It's pretty cool. Was there a question over here? I thought I saw a hand go up. Yes.
Fine, Jess. I was wondering how you're packaging. I was thinking of several people that I know who are pretty good birders to get out, but how are you going to reach out to other people? What's your package? Are you going to have something online that you look at, or how do you do it?
I typically just go through small connections and just personal emails. I typically don't have this many open spots. This is a unique year. A lot of people have retired as of last year, so they are freshly opened routes. So my goal was to present to you first, wanted to give you dibs, as it were. And whatever is left after around a month or so, I would go to the other Audubon societies like Red Rock and Bristlecone in parts of the others, in the other part of the state. And then I would go to our biologists. They don't get dibs, you get dibs. And then I would go to all the BLM offices, their local offices. And then I would go to other citizen science and state parks and Forest Service folks. And Park Service too. Any other questions? Yeah.
So are all the routes on paved roads?
No, but they are graded and you can
Okay.
take a car. That's a really great question. Since we camp, I have a little Subaru and that's what we take. The little Subaru. There's never really been an issue apart from, does everybody remember the winter that we had? Not this last winter, but the winter
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Some of the roads were washed out. And that's why I recommend doing a pre-run of your route. So you can go through and see, okay, I can't do this area. I have to go this way a little bit. But the people at Punctulant are very good and they can help you come up with alternative routes, or you can altogether skip 1 or 2 stops. Just let them know ahead of time. I had to do that on my route as well. I had to skip 3 stops. Because the road got completely washed out. But my little Subaru did it, no problem. Most of the roads are on graded dirt road or paved.
How's each stop, are they marked on the ground or is it GPS located or how do you know? Because I know it has to be in the same spot.
It does, yeah. So that's a great question. So part of the package that you'll get, part of this that you'll get comes with several maps. Mine, when I first started, mine came with one overall map. It was also emailed to me. And I also got GPS and UTM units, so I could like pinpoint them on a map. And I just used my phone just to make it easy because there's 50 stops. They're not marked outside on the ground or anything. So on stop number 1, I'll look at the description that's given to me and say, okay, this looks like this is stop 1. And I'll start my mileage on my car.
Are they
And-
generally like pull-outs on the road or?
Not all of them, but since you're on a dirt road, there's plenty of room. Yeah, the goal is to have everyone be safe as well. And this last year, the folks at USGS mailed out bright orange vests for everybody. So I have one for me, but I'm not sure if they have any left. But we can, like, I'm happy to pull that out of my budget to get you vests. For those of you at home, I'm standing next to 12, 15 giant boxes of vests. But yeah, so the goal is to have everyone be safe. But to answer your question, they're not marked on the ground, but you'll have several maps with you. You'll have pinpoints with you, UTMs, GPS points, and you'll have descriptions of each stop. So by the time you get to the very last stop, you might be a couple feet off, but that's okay. Because standing here versus here isn't gonna make a big difference. That's a great question. Anything else? Yes.
So I have a question, for safety reasons, obviously it's better to go with a friend. But if, say you end up doing a transect on your own and say your car breaks down. Or do we report to someone first so they know where we're at, what day we're out and where we're going to be? So if something does happen, someone knows to look for us?
Yes, that's a great question too. That's a really common practice anytime you go out, and I highly recommend that. So first, to answer your question, I do recommend going out with a buddy. Second, always tell someone you know and trust where you're going and what time you should be back. And third, always pack stuff in your car like water, food. I always have blankets with me in the car because they get cold pretty frequently. And I don't know if you know this, but it gets cold here. So I always want to be prepared. And when my partner is with me, my husband, he always also packs those things. But as far as I'm aware, all of the routes at some point along the route, you have cell phone service. So even if you're at stop 22 and you don't have cell phone service and you do break down, just walk up a mile and you'll have cell phone service. Anything else?
Is 22 really a hot springs? Because that would be a busy place to go look at birds.
22.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, it is. It is an actual hot springs. And I don't know how big it is now, but last time I looked at pictures, it was, 7 feet-ish, based on the pictures I saw. But it wasn't like, you don't start there, you just sort of drive by. And it's not hot enough to go swimming. It's sort of like an artesian.
Oh. Change the name.
I'm not allowed to change the names. I know, I wish I could change the names because there's a typo on one of them. Great questions, anything else? Okay, awesome. If you have other questions throughout, feel free to shout out and ask. So, because we just talked about all of the routes on the map, this is what it looks like if you go online. So if you have your phone and you scanned that QR code, this is what it will bring you to, and you can click each of these and it will zoom in on the map for you. It will tell you if you're interested to contact me, my email is right there. And it will also give you what species were found the year before. It'll tell you what years it was surveyed, and if there were any gaps. And it will also tell you that it's currently vacant. If it's not vacant, you can't click on it, but you can click the info, which is right here. So if for whatever reason a week goes by after today and you thought, oh, you know what? Jess was right. I should adopt a route. You can go to this website and you can find all the information you need to get in touch with me, get in touch with the folks at USGS if you have any additional questions that I can't answer, and all of the species that were found the year before, all of those things.
You can see the species that were found before and the info tag.
Yeah, if you click on the red underlined, it will zoom in on the map for you. If you click on the info tab, it will show you what years the survey was done and what species were found, and then my name will be attached. And depending on the route, depending on how new it is, you'll also have a very brief descriptor, about 2 sentences. No other questions? Okay, so there's the QR code if you wanted to look at the survey routes on your phone, but you can also just Google them. They're very easy to get to. My email's up there as well, but my email is also on the USGS website. Okay, so we're jumping into a new topic really quick. So part of what comes out of the, oh gosh, what time is it? Okay, I have to do it. Okay, part of what comes out of the breeding bird survey data is this. This is the State of the Birds report. It comes out roughly every 5 to 6 years. The last one that came out was in 2022. I have 2 copies. I'm going to leave both of them with you so you can flip through them. This is also available online. And the QR code that's on here, you can scan with your phone and it'll take you right to it. And you can scroll through and read it and zoom in and do all the things. The big thing that came out of the State of the Birds report this year were tipping point species, and I'm going to tell you what those mean in just a second. It also has a population overview, and it gives the status of major groups of birds. And in the next slide, I have a chart that came directly from the State of the Birds report that shows those groups. It also has a road to recovery with 3 specific steps we can do to help bird species. Also new this time around is the climate change and resilience, and investing in funding and policy for birds and habitat, which is part of what I do for my job. I see some phones out, so I'll give it just a second. Please take your time. Is it working, by the way? Good. Okay, so this is that chart. I don't know what page it's on, but I promise it's in here. Oh, it's on page 4. It's on page 4. This is the biggest chart, one of the biggest charts in the report. So these are some of the groupings that they delineate the species into. Geese and swans, which is the only group that has skyrocketed, and I'll talk about why that is in a second. Dabbling and diving ducks, water birds, which are doing pretty well. Western forest birds, and then here are some of the tipping point species, which are, they have categorized them as groups of groups of birds that if we don't do something now, if we don't have some of those conservation actions on the ground soon, those tipping point species could dive into the point of no return. They are arid land birds, eastern forest birds, sea ducks, some shorebirds, grassland birds, and most of those species fall in the negative 60% percentile, which means that their populations have shrank over the last 5 to 6 years, most cases up to 30 years, over 67%. So one of the big reasons why the geese and swan populations are coming up, skyrocketing, is because a lot of the funding and policy investments are for riparian areas and wetlands over the last 30-ish years. And I don't make those decisions. Oh, I'm covering my microphone. I don't make those decisions, but the people in charge, you know, in Nevada, in each state, in the administration, in the Senate, all 3 branches of government, they are making decisions. And they look at this data to make those decisions. So over the last 30-ish years, a lot of funding and policy investments have gone toward riparian and wetland areas. And geese and swans are not only larger birds that can outcompete the smaller birds like shorebirds and such, but they also can travel very far when they migrate, and people are also feeding them. So I have to say, don't feed the birds at this point in the presentation. They can eat fine on their own. We don't want them to depend on us in that way, but changing those policies may help other species.
Is that funding partly because of hunting?
Sure. Yeah, some of that is partly because of hunting, absolutely. Yeah,
Well, usually you have shorebirds, you have grassland birds. Now, some of the shorebirds come to the grasslands or come to the arid lands to nest. So, how does that work?
I see where you're going, and I 100% agree with you. I would also add that water birds can sometimes fall into multiple categories. But depending on how they make their delineation, I don't know if I can find each
The
species.
plovers come over here to breed. Yeah, they run around on the seashore over California.
Yeah, so I totally understand. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you.
Where are they in June? Is it always just in June?
This survey takes place just in June. In Nevada, we have quite a few routes that are going around saline lakes and arid lakes.
I'm just thinking of the shorebirds that come into nest in Nevada. That shore. Are they here in June doing breeding?
Not really.
Okay.
Not in Nevada anyway. Nevada's a unique state. I mean, we're the mountainous state in the whole United States, and we have quite a few arid lands. I don't know where grasslands are really, but water birds and shorebirds, we have quite a few, but during June, they're elsewhere. Because our shorebirds are here spring and fall. So those birds are just in other states, but they're being counted, hopefully, if there's a route.
Sometimes, as geologists, we can't drill in places, boulders or some other stuff, like baby birds around. And so, I mean, you have shorebirds and shorebirds on the same shore. That's why I was wondering if the grasslands, I thought maybe more arid.
Oh, you know what? I do know where you can find what each category has in terms of species, but it's not in here. It's on the USGS website, and on one of the last slides I have, I'll have that website pulled up, and there's a whole list of resources that you can click on, and it will show you all of these reports. This is just one of the several, and I believe 2 of those reports have the categories broken down. I hope that helps. I apologize, I don't have a good answer for you. Yeah,
What are some of the tipping point species?
yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I was prepared. I just don't have it marked in here, so I have to find it really quick. I got it. So before I do that, great question. 70, let me just finish this slide here. So 70 tipping point bird species in the United States have lost 2/3 of their population in the last 50 years. They are categorized as tipping point species if their population has dropped in the last 30 years, but 70 species have lost their lost 2/3 of their population in the last 50 years. Birds across the US show downward trends in every habitat except in wetlands. So that's where that policy making comes in, and that's what NDOW was working on. That's what the Forest Service is constantly working on, BLM. So this is more of a collaborative effort, and I know that folks in this room are also working on policies and things like that. Yes.
How long does it take for, we have the arid wings birds, and, how long does it take for burned off area to get their birds back? I mean, I've got my place with 40,000 acre fires in Eastern Nevada, and, there's no food.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on what happened to that land area, and it depends on the species. So in case of fire that you're talking about, I would give it 7-ish years. But in other habitats, it could be just 2 or 3 years. And I would also like to point out, you brought, oh, I gotta stand in front of the camera. You also pointed out, or you also reminded me of something that I'm seeing just trending at some of my shorebird routes, because I did the Intermountain West Shorebird Survey as well. One of the sites that I have, the shorebirds are doing fine. There's no trending data that I can tell just by memory, but the habitat itself is changing drastically. And it's not necessarily the water's going away, but more and more vegetation is changing. And I don't know what that will look like for the particular species that are showing up. But if a habitat loss means habitat change, other species aren't going to be able to use that area anymore. And if development is happening, that also means that birds can't use that area too. Fire is a huge one. Drought is a huge one. Flooding is another one.
Especially fire here, because you're basically, right around Reno, you can see it, a great case of is Florida. It's not here,
Yeah.
what we have. The vegetative kerosene all around town, cheatgrass.
Yeah,
And
that
it is
cheatgrass.
sweeping through, I've been here 40 years, I'm now 80, and it used to be sagebrush country. Now it's like Kansas.
Yeah, the cheatgrass, I can say that the cheatgrass burns hot and fast, so it doesn't necessarily affect the other shrubbery and foliage that's around as much as it would. But I know, I see some people's faces like, really? But so for example, if there weren't any cheatgrass there, the fire would stay in that particular area longer, and it would burn slower and hotter. So the plants would essentially die. But with cheatgrass there, it burns hotter and faster, not as hot, but faster. So when it rips through, it leaves some of those trees, and it leaves some of the shrubs there. So there's a give and take. For the most part, cheatgrass is awful, and we're trying to remove it, but it's a huge task. It's a huge task.
Just need lots of goats.
That's a great idea. I love that. My neighbor has goats, and I'm just gonna let them loose to eat all the cheatgrass. But no, that's a really excellent point, and there's some connectivity for sagebrush rehabilitation happening within NDOW, within the Forest Service right now. I'm not a big part of that conversation because it's habitat based, but I would love to connect you with that person if you like.
Forest Service hasn't done anything here on T5, burned off. How many years ago?
Yeah.
The sagebrush is all gone. The Mormon tea has come back up. The peach, but
Well, if if you'd like me to connect you with this person, he used to work for NDOW and he left us for the sagebrush plan, which is great. He has some excellent ideas, but I can get you in touch with him if you like. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Those are great questions. I can talk about this stuff all day. I love it. Okay. So to your question, before I move on from this slide, in the State of the Birds report, it breaks down each of the categories and shows some of the tipping point species, but not all of them. So where is it?
I can look at the report.
Yeah, so for shorebirds, for example, the ruddy turnstone, lesser yellowlegs are two of the big ones, and it gives some pinpoints. Let's see, arid land birds. Bender's thrasher is one of them. And sage thrasher and sagebrush sparrow are two others. So it goes through each of the categories. This is not an in-depth report though, it's just there's an at a glance, and then there's this, and there's the full report, which is a bunch of the raw data. It's a read, but it is available. So some of the tipping point species, in 2019, a study revealed that 303 bird species in North America are declining, with 90 species identified as having lost over 50% of their population since 1970. And that just means that we have to do more research and actually put boots on the ground and shovels in the dirt to make these conservation actions happen, instead of just collecting data. And I can tell you that just within NDOW, where I am, just in the last year, that shift in thinking of, oh my gosh, we have to collect data over years and years, is shifting to, we have data now. What do we do with it? So we're starting to make larger decisions with our partners, Forest Service, BLM especially, all of our wildlife management areas, where we're starting to do things. Actions are happening, actions on the ground. So it's scary, but it's something that needs to happen. And that's why I'm pretty darn excited about it. These species in particular are very vulnerable. So when it comes to doing these actions, monitoring efforts are also going to happen. And if you're interested in that, please let me know, because it's not official yet, but we'll need people to help with these monitoring efforts. So if you want to go visit Mason Valley, where we're going to be doing this rehabilitation work, we'll need people to go out and tell us how it's going. So we need people to go out and see if the birds are reacting, see if the other wildlife is reacting, see how many birds are out there, because birds are a great indicator species to see how healthy the habitat is. If you're available and you're interested, please let me know. So part of the, do I have time? Yes. Okay, so part of the vision for our shared future that's in the State of the Birds report, they gave 3 big pieces that we can scale up our conservation. One is climate resilience, make the climate a little bit more resilient. That's very self-explanatory. Environmental justice, which is part of what our conservation education folks are doing. Make sure that everyone knows that wildlife is for the public and getting more people involved. And biodiversity, instead of just seeing the one group of geese go up like crazy in their population, we want all of the categories of birds to go up. And then the last bullet point there, support proactive voluntary conservation. That's part of the reason why I'm here talking with you all tonight. Okay, couple more slides. I promise I'll finish before 8. So part of what I'm leaving with you tonight is the State of the Birds report, which is this. It's also available online. And also this, which is the strategic plan for the North American Breeding Bird Survey for the next 10 years. It started in 2020, goes to 2030. And this is not comprehensive, but the full report is online. And it shows, the beginnings of the actual strategic plan. It has the abstract in here, the introduction, and the method of moving forward. And there's fancy pictures and stuff, which is fun, but the content is very impressive. And it has in here some of the graphs of specific birds. Like, oh, the indigo bunting. There's a ton in here. So I'm gonna be leaving this with you as well. And all of these reports are located on the USGS website. So that includes the State of the Birds report from 2022. You can get all of the raw data. It was just released last month. The strategic plan that I just showed you for 2020 to 2030, the Breeding Bird Survey Action Plan, which is a more comprehensive plan for the public and plan for partners, including NDOW, the Breeding Bird Survey Data Analysis. And there's also a couple fun things for some of our volunteers, like the Patchtuant Bird Quiz, which it changes all the time, so you can quiz yourself. And the Bird ID Info Center, which is a whole other website, but it has several pictures from different birds and what their morphs might look like, depending on their area. And it also has all of their calls. So of course, there's things like the Merlin Bird ID app, which is very helpful, and eBird, which I use all the time. But this website is also super useful because it's a collaborative effort to get people more involved in being able to identify some of these species and where they are, when they're traveling, what their calls are like, what their juvenile calls are like, things like that. I see a couple phones out, so I'll wait a second. No worries, take your time.
What's slashing and?
Oh, so the slash is for this. It's broken up into different areas. So it broke up the west and the east. And I also think the east goes up into parts of Canada and the west goes down into parts of Mexico. Because it broke it up by habitat, not necessarily lines of countries. This was just a picture I took directly from the State of the Birds report. All right, so other volunteer opportunities. We have the Breeding Bird Survey. I also run the Intermountain West Shore Bird Survey, which is ending in 2026. But we do a shore bird survey in April and one in August. So if you're interested, please let me know. The Winter Raptor Survey, which happens every single January. It's a driving route. So you have a partner with you and you're driving up to 35 miles an hour and you're counting all the raptors. It's pretty fun. We have wood duck box surveys that I don't run, but our volunteer coordinator, Julie, runs herself. And you get to walk with a binder and count the wood ducks in the nesting boxes that we put out. Non-bird related CWD check stations for mule deer, guzzler inspections. Does everybody know what a guzzler is?
No.
Okay, I heard a couple knows. So a guzzler is a man-made structure designed to catch and trap and hold water, like rainwater. So when we go through droughts, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, right? When we go through droughts, there's water available for wildlife. And there's small guzzlers and there's large guzzlers, and they're all throughout the state.
CWD.
CWD is a disease that it's chronic wasting disease,
Oh.
and it affects the brains of mule deer. It's very similar to mad cow disease. But as hunters come in from their harvest, you can check to see if that mule deer has CWD. It's graphic and fun if you're into that, but quite a few people participate. It's really neat. There's also fishing reports. If you fish, you can just tell our fishing folks what you catch, what you were using, where you were at, what time of day, and that goes in the weekly fishing report. There's wildlife management area maintenance, which is something I alluded to earlier, but if you're interested in going out to any of our wildlife management areas and just checking up on things, we can use that info because we are so strapped for time. We can't get out as much as we want to. And there's others. There's so many other things. The QR code that's on the screen right now will take you directly to our volunteer information page on our website. And you can search for opportunities. And if that doesn't work, just email me. The volunteer coordinator is like my best friend. So if you have any questions, I can get you in touch with her. Any questions on volunteer opportunities? Okay, that's it. Are there any questions about anything else? Yes,
You said the Intermountain Shoreline Survey is gonna end in 2026. Why?
the funding. So the Intermountain West Shorebird Survey is not Nevada's project.
I know it's a separate thing, but I just wondered why.
Oh, yeah. You know, to be honest, it is funding and the project was only supposed to last a certain number of years. There are certain sites in Nevada that we're going to continue, but not all sites. So the wildlife management areas we're going to continue, like Humboldt will continue and Mason Valley will continue. But a lot of the sites that were historic sites that were surveyed over 30 years ago, we're not going to continue those. We just don't have funding. Yeah,
I have a question on the breeding bird surveys. We have a lot of development in Nevada. Do any of your routes go through project sites so you can compare before and after effects?
that is a wonderful question. And the answer is no. They don't. And the goal is that they never will. Whenever we get a development proposal, we have staff on board, myself included, that go through that proposal and say, you can't develop here. We have a breeding bird survey route there, and they won't develop. This is a really powerful survey.
Okay, more routes.
Actually, I'm working on 3 new routes on the Nevada testing site. I know, it's a big part in the lower section of Nevada, just north of Vegas-ish, kind of. And the biologists out there have the routes laid out. They've already done them once as a test route, and there's 3 of them. They're right next to each other. I'm just waiting for approval at this point to get them official routes. I'm very excited about it.
Good for you.
Yeah, so we can make new routes if you wanted to. Let's do it. Let's do more routes. Any other questions before I pass the torch?
Well,
All right.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna stand just right next to you and say thank you.
Oh,
We appreciate it that you
thanks.
came. And then also we have one more job for you.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yes, you have to draw the raffle tickets. And I forgot to announce that there is a sale here at Moana on bird feeders and it's 30% off. 30% off on bird feeders. And do we know how long that's
Till
lasting?
the end of the month.
Till the end of the month.
One
So,
week.
well, not even a week. You have until Sunday. So, because Monday is the next month. So, get out there and buy those bird feeders. Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to do our raffle. So I'm going to say goodbye to those online because you're not here for the raffle, but thank you for joining us.